breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Welcome to Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, Thursday edition, brought to you every Monday and Thursday by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN and available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM, former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is Jason Stormer, does a fantastic job putting the show together. And Jason, big game for the Vikings this coming Saturday, not Sunday, not Monday. It's on Saturday at noon. High noon against the Cincinnati Bengals, two teams at 7-6 that are in the playoff hunt. Vikings holding the 6th seed in the NFC, and the Bengals are down the line, even though they're tied for the last wild card spot, but their conference record not very good, so that set them back. So big game for both teams.
Yeah, if you would have told me when the regular season started that the Vikings would still be in playoff contention and also have a record of above 500 on their 4th starting quarterback, I wouldn't be believing you, and I'd take some money to Vegas and I'd bet against you. But here we are. We'll take it. And yeah, we definitely are going to need a win on Sunday against the Jake Browning-led Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, how about that? Two backup quarterbacks, basically, after Kirk Cousins goes down and Joe Burrow goes down and Jake Browning, who is doing an excellent job with the Bengals. Who thought that was going to happen? And Nick Mullens, as you said, the 4th starting quarterback this season for the Vikings, gets the nod from Kevin O'Connell going into Cincinnati in the big game on Saturday. I do have to say, Jason, I was not surprised that he chose Mullens to start. I was surprised that he picked Jaren Hall over Josh Dobbs as the number 2 quarterback, considering that Dobbs did win a couple games. Now, he hasn't played well the last couple weeks, we know that, but he won a couple games. He's a veteran guy, and he does have the mobility. He could do some different things. They could even use him as a wildcat-type quarterback, like a Taysom Hill in New Orleans. But obviously, the Vikings coaches do not trust Josh Dobbs right now and are afraid he's going to turn the ball over or just be totally unproductive as he was in Las Vegas last Sunday when they had to pull him in the 4th quarter. Fortunately, the defense stood tall in that game and played great to keep him in the game, but they obviously don't trust Dobbs at this point.
Yeah, it's too bad because, I mean, in that Raider game, he did the main thing that I didn't want him to do, and that was turn the ball over. And I think there were just other things also in that game that set up that offense to fail. The lack of the running game, even though in the first half it looked pretty good, but then Alexander Mattison got hurt. The offensive line just started falling apart as well, and now we got Brian O'Neill, who's ruled out for this upcoming Bengals game. So I think in a lot of ways, the odds were stacked up against Dobbs, but still, there was just no life from that offense, and they need to make a change. And, you know, this was always the intended plan. Josh Dobbs was never really supposed to start for the Vikings. It was supposed to be Jaren Hall from the Atlanta Falcons game moving forward, and then maybe when Nick Mullens' back got better, he would come in. So it seems actually like the Vikings are reverting back to the original plan. The Josh Dobbs phenomenon was fun, but unfortunately it looks like it's going to be coming to an end, at least here with the purple.
Yeah, and I think also the Vikings receivers definitely did not help Dobbs in the Vegas game against the Raiders. There were 7 drops that I counted, 3 of them by KJ Osborne. Hawkinson had a drop on a deep ball that not an easy catch, but catchable for a Pro Bowl tight end. Addison had a drop. They have got to start catching the ball better for whoever's playing quarterback. And that was a problem earlier in the season with the dropsies, which got better, and then now it kind of reverted again. So they've got to really do a much better job catching the ball for Nick Mullens this week, or for whoever's playing quarterback down the road. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, when we're on our 7th starting quarterback in 2 weeks.
Exactly. But as I said, big game for the Vikings, 7-6, holding the 6th seed, and 2 games back of Detroit, who lost it to the Bears. The Lions are struggling, and they have a challenging game on Saturday night against the Denver Broncos, who've won 6 of their last 7. So that's really an interesting game to watch. If the Vikings can find a way to get the win in Cincinnati, which is going to be difficult. As I said, the Bengals have won 2 straight. They're playing pretty good football. They were a Final Four team the last 2 years certainly in the hunt in the AFC at 7-6 also. And there are 6 teams that are 7-6 in the AFC.
Quite a logjam.
So the Bengals have to feel, if we get this win, we might be in decent shape going forward. But yeah, I think it's certainly a big game for the Vikings. It doesn't kill them if they get beat in Cincinnati, because they'll still hold a playoff spot, because the advantage that they've got over their other contenders in the NFC in the wild card races, they've got an excellent record in conference games at 6-3, which is the best of the bunch, and all those 6 and 7 teams, of which there are 5 or 6 of those teams too in the NFC. The Vikings are the only 7-6 team, but they've got to keep their eye on Detroit, because, as I said, if the Vikings are amazingly in the position, if they win out all 4 games, they're going to win the NFC North. Mm-hmm. And who thought that was possible when they were 0-3 or 1-4? The Bengals also are a team that started slowly at 1-3. So both these teams, you give credit to the head coaches, Kevin O'Connell and Zach Taylor, for doing an excellent job keeping their teams going, and especially after they lost their starting quarterbacks. But to me, this is a bigger game, Jason, for the Bengals, because that AFC is so jam-packed. And as I said, the Bengals have a 3-6 record in conference games, which has really put them behind the 8 ball in terms of the competition for those wild card spots. They're not going to catch Baltimore in their division, but to earn a wild card spot, they're going to have to win a bunch of games. And that's why this game really stands out as very important for Cincinnati. Maybe a little less so for the Vikings, but I think if the Vikings lose this game, it puts enormous pressure on them going into the Detroit game in terms of the wild card. And it also could put them behind the race for the NFC North if the Lions do beat the Broncos. So a lot of things could happen. Even if the Vikings don't win in Cincinnati and they win out the last 3 games, and Detroit drops one of those games to either Denver or Dallas at Dallas week 17, they're not going to win that game, I don't think. So the Vikings still have a chance in the division, even if they get beat. But if they win this game, it definitely solidifies their possibility of being a playoff team. So we will see how it shakes out. And as we look forward to this game with Cincinnati, and as I said, the Bengals have a lot of talent on that team, especially that wide receiver core of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. And Browning's been doing a good job getting them the ball. He threw for 354 and 275 the last 2 weeks in the wins over Jacksonville and Indianapolis. So Jake Browning, surprisingly, is playing really well in Cincinnati. Again, credit to Zach Taylor as the head coach there. But before we kind of look a little bit ahead, more so to the Bengals game, and talk some more about games around the league, a lot of big games this weekend, which we've already touched on. Certainly the Lions and Broncos in the NFC North. Green Bay has a big game with Tampa Bay. And those pesky Chicago Bears, who are kind of on a roll.
It's like they don't want the number 1 pick in the draft anymore. Look at them.
They're going to have the number 1 pick because they got Carolina's pick.
Yes, but they had a bad draft positioning on their own with how bad of a start they had, and now they've strung together some wins. And now it's just like, okay, fine, that works for us.
Yeah, exactly. But they're going to have that number 1 pick. The question is if Justin Fields plays well enough to convince them not to take a quarterback, Caleb Williams, Drake May, or whoever that may be. Yeah. And if Fields keeps playing like he has the last couple of weeks, I think there's a good chance that they keep him, because he's a talented guy. There's no doubt about that. But let's look back a little bit at the Saturday game in Vegas. What a bizarre game that was. and talk a little bit about the Vikings defense, because as I talked about on Monday night, I think one of the huge surprises this season is how the defense has turned the tables on the expectations going in, which the expectations were that the offense was going to carry this team with Kirk Cousins and Kevin O'Connell in their second season together, Justin Jefferson, the offensive player of the year, coming back. Cousins gets hurt, Jefferson gets hurt. The offense is sort of struggling lately, especially the last couple games when they've scored 13 points in 2 weeks against the Bears and the Raiders. And so all of a sudden, the defense that everybody thought was going to be shaky, losing some guys due to the salary cap and other things. And again, it talks to the fantastic job Brian Flores has done in coordinating this defense. He's probably the assistant coach of the year in the NFL right now. in my opinion. So I think that's, again, one of the interesting matchups in this game. You got two of the best defensive coordinators in the league, too, with Lou Anarumo of the Bengals is an excellent D coordinator, as O'Connell has talked about. And he's going to be a challenge for the Vikings offensively for O'Connell as a play caller. But looking back at the Raider game, I want to highlight a couple of plays by Nick Mullens. And he's the guy, as we said, going forward, at least for this week. And Mullens came in the fourth quarter as Dobbs was not getting anything done offensively. And here was his first play as a Viking, kind of relived this, a 26-yarder to T.J. Hockenson that was deflected.
Almost national championships in Georgia, then with Shanahan in San Francisco, so he's capable.
And on first down, deflected it into the hands of T.J. Hockenson. Robert Spillane tipped it, but Hockenson stays with it.
Better to be lucky than good sometimes.
Yes, a good start, definitely. And then, of course, the biggest play on the final or on the drive that led to the winning field goal that was directed by Nick Mullens was this 3rd and 6 from the Raiders 42, a 20-yard gain, a great throw to Jordan Addison.
Play clock down to 1. Mullens gets the snap just in time. Mullens will throw to the side. It is caught. Breaking free is Jordan Addison. Now they're well in field goal range with 2:27 to go in a scoreless game.
And that set up the game-winning field goal by Greg Joseph. Vikings win 3-0 in Las Vegas. First shutout since 2017. I think it's the first time the Raiders have ever been shut out in their history. Just crazy, crazy game.
And it was a dome stadium, too.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that 2007 game between the Dolphins and the Steelers that I think's been deemed the Mud Bowl, where literally one of the punters punted the ball and the ball literally landed into the ground with the cone of the football sticking straight up. It was like he took out his 9-iron or something like that. Unbelievable. I just couldn't explain it. But honestly, at this point in the game, Jeff, I'll be honest with you, I was rooting for a 0-0 tie going into overtime because that had never happened before. And at that point, I was just so sick of this game that I was like, all right, if we're just going to set a record of ineptitude, let's just do it. I was rooting for it. So, whatever. Vikings
That's okay.
got the win
Just
anyway.
as well to get the win and get the heck out of Vegas.
No kidding.
So, as I said earlier, it's tough to beat the house in Vegas, and the Vikings did that in this game. Let's take a look at the Bengals and kind of look at some of their key players as we preview this game coming up on Saturday. Trey Hendrickson's 13.5 sacks on the season. Last week against the Colts, here was a sack by Hendrickson.
He has done a tremendous job for the injured Jonathan Taylor. Here comes the pressure. Minshew's in trouble, and he's going down. Trey Hendrickson got a piece of that.
And he's going to be a handful. As you mentioned earlier, Brian O'Neill is out on Saturday with a sprained ankle. David Quessenberry gets the start, and I think it's really going to be important. Now, Hendrickson generally lines up on the right side, so he would be going against Christian Darrisaw, but you can certainly guess that the Bengals will want to perhaps rotate him over to the other side and go against Quessenberry, in which case the Vikings are going to definitely need to have Josh Oliver help double team on whether it's Sam Hubbard, who's got 5 sacks over there, or if it's Hendrickson. That's going to be a key thing to keep an eye on in this game, and that they're going to have to give Quessenberry some help. He's an okay player as a backup, but these are some really very good defensive linemen for the Cincinnati Bengals. So that will be a challenge in this game. And as I mentioned before, some really great skill players on that Bengals team, which is part of the reason Jake Browning has been able to be so successful as Joe Burrow was before. The Bengals' offensive line is okay. They've given up 33 sacks. The Vikings may have an opportunity there to get a decent pass rush against them. But one thing I also saw in looking at some of the replay of the Bengals and the Colts and the Bengals and the Jaguars, a lot of quick throws that they have Browning do, that Zach Taylor has him do, a lot of quick wide receiver screens to Jamar Chase, throws out of the backfield to Chase Brown, their rookie running back, and here's one of those that went for a 54-yard touchdown.
Browning dumps it off underneath. He's got Chase Brown. He's the speedster. He's got daylight inside the 30. One man to beat. Oh, he makes a move into the end zone. Touchdown, Bengals.
You see Jamar Chase going in motion the other way. Kenny Moore has an opportunity to make the play. Thought he got blocked in the back, but they brought Chase Brown in last week. Gave him 9 carries. He gives a different dynamic to this element. Joe Mixon with the power. Chase Brown with the speed.
Yeah, he's got some wheels, so that's going to be a challenge definitely there. And as we mentioned before, talking about certainly the wide receiver core for the Bengals, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd. Here's T. Higgins on a catch against the Colts.
He was 5th fastest in the NFL before he got injured.
Second down at 10. Browning looking for it all. He's got Higgins, and Higgins spins around.
Now, a better throw there by Browning. It's a touchdown. So.
Right. That was in the air for quite a while.
Yeah, he does not have the Joe Burrow arm, shall we say, but as I said, still making good plays. Here, Jamar Chase, we mentioned, Pro Bowl receiver, over 1,000 yards already this year. He's the big challenge, along with Higgins, for the Vikings secondary. Big concern with the Vikings corners. Can they handle these really star receivers? If the Vikings can't get a pass rush, and however that is manufactured by Brian Flores, whether it's through Danielle Hunter and DJ Wanham putting pressure on, or the blitz from Metellus or Harrison Smith, they need to pressure Browning. If they can't get to him and he's got time to throw, I think it spells big trouble. And here's what Jamar Chase can do, and this was in the Jacksonville game.
3rd down and about 1.5 yards. Extra men on the rush. This one floated, caught by Chase, and he is gone. Touchdown, Cincinnati, as he takes it into the end zone. He beat Tyson Campbell, and 76 yards later, the Bengals have their first lead of the night.
And that is Justin Jefferson's former college teammate at LSU on the national championship team. And speaking of JJ, we'll hear from him in a little bit, but he says he's healthy, ready to go after taking that hellacious hit in the Raider game. I really thought, Jason, that he had either a broken collarbone or broken ribs or something in that situation.
I thought it was like a broken rib, or I hate to even take a darker turn, like a lacerated kidney or something like that, because he was grabbing his side like that, and it was just it was not a very good throw by Josh Dobbs,
no,
and it left him very vulnerable, and that didn't help.
Yeah, he hung him out to dry, as they say, and so I think it shows Jefferson's toughness and certainly his willingness to play, and those people who doubted him and said because he hadn't had his contract extended that he didn't want to play. Well, if he didn't want to play, this is a good opportunity not to play, because he took a big hit in that game, and he said he's going to come back. So that's good news for Nick Mullens if he's got time to throw.
Yes.
And so that's going to be the big challenge this week. And I think, again, the Vikings need to run the ball. Ty Chandler, it's a big week for him to prove he can be a big-time running back when the pressure's on. No Madison this week with his ankle injury. And so Ty Chandler takes on that number 1 running back role, and Kene Nwangwu needs to be able to make some plays with his speed as the number 2 back in this game. Now, before we hear from some of the principals, such as Kevin O'Connell, and although before we go to our commercial, let's live back to the Raider game in the locker room after the game. And here's Kevin O'Connell and the celebration.
Anybody that wants a depiction of what it looks like when a team, no matter what, does not flinch. Got hard for us on offense. We had a lot of guys go down, a lot of guys that we rely on. Next man up, kept on rolling along. 0 turnovers for the offense today. Give it up for yourself. But let me just tell you something. This defense is a championship defense. Right? It's a championship defense. My trust to coach the game, call the game, whatever you want to call it, knowing that sometimes you got to let the strength of your group in its purest form lead the way. And every single time you guys had to make a play, you did. Every single time, all right, we were backed against the wall. On the road, you guys made a play. And I commend you for that. Every single defensive player and defensive coach gets a game ball today. But a couple guys are getting two. This guy just played his 172nd game, most by any defensive back in team history. All right? We are lucky to watch this guy ride every single day, leading us with a C on your chest. You don't have the type of culture we have in this building without Harrison Smith. Where you at? And this other guy we're going to single out, all he did was go out and have 13 tackles, 1 sack, and when we had to have it, leaned on him the most, 1 interception. Where's my guy, IP? You don't got to talk, but you got to break them down. Hey, Vikings out 3. 1, 2, 3. Vikings!
Yeah, that's a great scene, and always great in those locker rooms when you win the game. And Ivan Pace Jr., what a story he is this year. Defensive player of the week in the NFL, of the NFC, and this guy was an undrafted player. Let's talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. There are trucks, then there's the truck, GMC Sierra, with available features like the V8 engine, the ultimate luxury interior, and of course, the available world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra, not just any truck, the truck. GMC's continued commitment to professional-grade engineering is on full display at your local GMC dealer. Come take a test drive today and see for yourself. We are professional-grade GMC. Just in time for the holidays, well-qualified buyers get 0.9% APR on 2023 Sierra light-duty models, plus no monthly payments for 90 days. See your local GMC dealer today. Length of contract limited. Deferred monthly payments for 90 days. Excludes residents of Pennsylvania. Must finance with GM Financial. Down payment required at signing if applicable. Finance charges accrue from data financing. Some customers will not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 1/2/24. So, as we again look ahead to the Bengals game, big game on Saturday, let's hear from the man of the hour, Nick Mullens, the new starting quarterback, 4th starting quarterback, first time in Vikings history that's happened.
It was pretty simple. Just told me I was starting. I was excited for the opportunity, and it's not cool to start. It's cool to start and play well, and so that's the goal, and that's what we're all working for.
What have your conversations with Kirk been like this week?
Yeah, very supportive. Kirk is very smart, and the Bengals do a lot of interesting stuff on defense and challenging stuff on defense. So to hear his veteran perspective on it has been great. He brings great energy, talking football, talking life, talking Christmas cardigans that he's been wearing. He brings great energy to the building. So anytime you can have 8 around, it's awesome.
Nick's got a sense of humor, too. I hope he still does after Saturday. Justin Jefferson, as we said, making a very, I don't want to call it miraculous recovery, but somewhat surprising recovery so quickly. And he will be starting, he says, on Saturday, even though he's listed as questionable by the Vikings for this game. Here's JJ talking about coming back and looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah, it felt great. Felt like a kid again. Just being out there on that field. The first play, hearing the fans, go crazy. It definitely was a great feeling. Sadly, I wasn't able to give them fully what they wanted and what I wanted to do. So, this week is a new week, and definitely looking to have a great game.
It was fine, that part.
Yeah, it was perfect. Just like I said, I wasn't going to be on that field without being 100%. So hamstring was definitely 100 and feeling very, very good.
Which is good news for the Vikings going forward. As we said, as long as they get the pass protection that they need in this game, as long as they can run the ball effectively enough to set up the play-action game, those are some of the keys to the game. Then defensively, putting pressure on Jake Browning, stopping Joe Mixon in the running game, a very solid running back with over 700 yards rushing this year. He's got 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. Chase Brown, as we've seen out of the backfield. Mixon's really good in the screen game, too. The Bengals do a really good job on offense, mixing things up. And let's hear from Brian Flores as he looks forward to the game on Saturday, and he talks a little bit about Ivan Pace Jr.
I think he's done a phenomenal job kind of stepping in for Burrow. Gets the ball out of his hands quickly, makes good decisions. They got a lot of playmakers, and he gets it to them in a timely manner, and they do a good job running after the catch. I would say that's one thing this group does is yards after contact, yards after the catch. They got good skill players, and he's got great command of the offense, and I think he's done a great job these last few weeks.
Brian, how has Ivan improved? It was never too big for him, even from day one.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's gotten better throughout the year.
I mean, I feel like we talk about Ivan every week, and you can kind of see his improvement over the course of the year. He's done a great job. I mean, the kid works hard. It's important to him. And it takes a little while to just get familiar with the NFL game and the speed of it. And the wear and tear that happens to your body, throughout the season. I think he's really feeling good, really feeling confident. I think Mike Saravo's done a great job of coaching him and the entire backer group the entire year. Swerve's somebody that is somebody I lean on for sure. And he's as excited. I'm excited about kind of where Ivan's kind of progression has gone, and we'll continue. Hoping he continues to ascend. This isn't. Hopefully that wasn't the best of Ivan Pace. He's got room to grow, and he's working towards growing for sure.
So before we go around the league a little bit, let's again hear from our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
There are trucks, then there's the truck, GMC Sierra, with available features like the V8 engine, the ultimate luxury interior, and of course, the available world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra, not just any truck, the truck. GMC's continued commitment to professional-grade engineering is on full display at your local GMC dealer. Come take a test drive today and see for yourself. We are professional-grade GMC. Well-qualified buyers step up to GMC with 0.9% APR on 2023 Sierra light-duty models. Plus, no monthly payments until 2024. See your local GMC dealer today. Length of contract limited. Deferred monthly payments for 120 days. Excludes residents of Pennsylvania and Maine. Must finance with GM Financial. Down payment required at signing if applicable. Finance charges accrue from date of financing. Some customers will not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 12/4/23.
So we go around the league a little bit, and then we're going to make our picks, Jason.
All right.
So, as I said earlier, the Vikings NFC North rivals all have interesting matchups this weekend. The Lions take on the hot Denver Broncos, coming in 6 out of 7 wins, as I said. The Packers, upset by the Giants on Monday night at the Meadowlands, face a Buccaneers team at Lambeau that took over first place in the NFC South, the lousy NFC South, with a win at Atlanta. And the Bears go to Cleveland. Justin Fields, as we said, continues his audition to keep his starting job next year. I think that all these home teams are going to win. So I'm going to pick Detroit reluctantly, and I'm going to pick Green Bay. But I could easily see both those teams losing. And I think I said last week at about this time that I thought that the Lions and Packers would have a tough go against the Bears and the Giants, and it certainly came to pass. They both lost those games. So I could easily see Detroit and Green Bay going down this week, which would really help the Vikings in the playoff race and in the division race. I think Cleveland will handle the Bears in Cleveland, that number one defense in the league. And then some other really top games. 10-3 Dallas is at 7-6 Buffalo. The Bills desperately need a win to stay alive in the AFC playoff race. The Cowboys want to stay in the hunt for the top seed and also trying to overtake Philadelphia in the NFC East, but I don't think that's going to happen. The Eagles have the easier schedule and the tiebreaker over the Cowboys. I think Buffalo gets this win in Buffalo.
Wow, nice.
But that one could go either way, too. Baltimore trying to hold on to the top seed. They're at Jacksonville on Sunday night. I like the Ravens there. And the 10-3 Eagles are at the 6-7 Seahawks, who've lost 4 in a row. And it would help the Vikings if Philadelphia knocks off Seattle to knock them further down in the wild card race. So those are some of the key games this weekend. And then, as we said, the big game, of course, Vikings at Cincinnati on Saturday. O'Connell, Zach Taylor go at it. Both done a great job. 2 top defensive coordinators. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. The Bengals have a great kicker in McPherson, who beat the Vikings in overtime last time they played in the 2021 season opener. I'm concerned about the Vikings' issues on the offensive line with O'Neal out, and Reisner is playing, and Ingram they're both starting, but they've been banged up. Mm-hmm. And against a really tough defense, Logan Wilson, a really excellent linebacker for Cincinnati, Hendrickson, we've talked about. So I think that it could easily, this is the kind of game where if the Vikings can get the pressure on Browning, force a couple turnovers, maybe they can pull out the win on the road. They've been a great road team this year, 5-2, one of the best road records in the league. The Bengals are only 4-3 at home. So Danielle Hunter, DJ Wanham could have a big impact, obviously, on this game. And this is also the kind of game maybe Justin Jefferson has an enormous game like he did in Buffalo last year and pull off that upset. So
I just want him to stay on the field for an entire 4 quarters at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure that he does too, and so do the Vikings. So I'm gonna pick Cincinnati in this game in a close one, 24-21. I think McPherson maybe kicks the winning field goal at the end. But I could easily see it going the other way. How do you see it, Jason?
I was close to you as well. I predicted yesterday 24-20 that the Bengals would win. Especially now that we know the news of who is going to be out for sure for the Vikings. Running the ball is going to be difficult. I don't know how much I trust Ty Chandler yet. Not having Brian O'Neill is going to make things very difficult for the right side of that line, especially if Ed Ingram's not 100% either. If we expect Hendrickson to make the flip to the other side of the field, that could exploit the Vikings a ton, just like Max Crosby did in the Raiders game. And I also just expect this defense to come back to earth just a little bit. They've been pitching touchdown shutouts now for the last couple weeks, and eventually they are going to give up a touchdown eventually. And this offense, just with the Bengals, is not skipping many beats with Joe Burrow being out. Browning has filled that role plenty well, and sure, he's got great skill position players, but just this week, it's going to be too much for the Vikings to overcome and make the playoff situation a little bit more interesting for the Purple.
Yeah, definitely. As we said, it won't knock them out of the box, but it's going to make a lot more pressure in the last 3 games, twice against Detroit with Green Bay in between. They've got 2 of those games at home. If they can get this win, it would certainly put them in a fantastic position, and it's doable, but like you said, I'm concerned about the Vikings being able to generate enough pressure and to be able to protect Mullens in this game and put the pressure on Browning enough against those great receivers. I think this might be the game where the Vikings corners are a little bit exposed. Caleb Evans and Mekhi Blackman and Byron
Murphy. Yep.
Murphy.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I think it's just a tough matchup, but as we said, it's a game that the Vikings can win if they play really well. And we will be back, and we're going to break it down on Monday night and then look forward to the Detroit game, which is going to be a huge game in any event. Whatever happens this weekend to both teams, it's going to be a huge game next Sunday when the Lions come to town. And we will preview that game next Thursday night. So this has been Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Viking season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN and available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. This is Jeff Diamond with Jason Stormer. Wish everybody have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next week after the Vikings face the Bengals.